Okay, wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining me for a 60-minute take root yoga class. We're going to be focusing on grounding, rooting yoga postures. For this class, you will want a yoga mat or just a carpeted area, and you might want a blanket and or pillow nearby. We won't do any like super prop heavy postures, but you might want those nearby just in case they make a posture a little more comfortable for you. After the 60-minute class, I will also be offering a optional 15-minute journaling session kind of on seasonal transitions and grounding and rooting into our yoga practice and into our self-care routine. If journaling is not your thing, no problem. You can just, sign out of Zoom at the end of class. Or if you want to stick around but you don't want to journal, you can just stay in final Savasana and listen. Otherwise, have a pen and paper nearby for that journaling session after our 60-minute yoga class. Okay, I think that's all you need to know. You're going to come and sit well, so you can sit crisscross applesauce or in Sukhasana, easy pose with one foot in front of the other. Just take a moment, you can kind of like rock out your hips, and then just sit up nice and tall. So this is intended to be a grounding, rooting yoga practice. I think sometimes, especially these days, it's easy to feel untethered or super in our minds, right? So much of us, so much of our lives as humans is spent doing highly mental functions, for work or even in our relationships. And in this yoga class, we're really going to get into our bodies and kind of ground into the earth. So there's a chakra system in the body, and the chakra system, or the chakra that's associated with kind of grounding and rooting, is the root chakra. Not very creative there. It's at the base of your spine. It's at your tailbone. It's associated with the color red. It's associated with stability, with getting your needs met, not just your immediate needs of like food, water, shelter, heat, right? But also maybe the other needs that you have in your life, whether that's for love or relationship or, to be really heard and valued. So keep that in mind. That's kind of what these postures are going to be working towards, is this area at the base of our spine, our seat. It's again associated with the red color, and it's associated with stability and having our needs met and making sure that we're getting our needs met by ourselves and also by vocalizing what we need from others. So that can be kind of in service in your yoga practice. If you'd like, you can close your eyes. If closing your eyes is distracting, you can keep your eyes open, but do like a soft, fuzzy gaze, just be on the tip of your nose. You're not, focusing on certain objects around you. You're really just starting to come into your own body and into your yoga practice. Notice if you're leaning forward, kind of anticipating the future, what might come next, or leaning back, maybe thinking about, something happened earlier today, maybe leaning to one side, thinking about, again, something, really highly cerebral. You're just going to let that go and sit up nice and tall as a symbolic gesture that you're starting to arrive in your yoga practice. Picture the base of your spine, your tailbone, the root chakra. You can imagine a color red. The chakra is also associated with a lotus flower. So you can picture that if you'd like. And we're just going to think about breathing there. So really feel your sit bones rooted into the floor. We're just going to begin by taking a slow inhale through your nose. Picture this breath traveling through the nose, down the throat, the chest, and all the way to the base of your spine. When you're ready, slowly exhale through your nose. Picture this breath, this energy going back from the base of the spine, up through middle, upper spine, through the throat, and back out your nose. Take a slow, deep inhale, breathing into the base of your spine, your tailbone. Slow exhale through your nose, slowly releasing the air back out. Breathe in. And slowly let it go through the exhale breath. This time as you inhale, send the breath a little bit deeper beyond the tailbone into the ground beneath you, as if you are growing roots into the ground, into the earth. And this time as you slowly exhale, picture that exhale going through the spine all the way up out of the top of your head as branches are emerging. Breathe in slowly down through the tailbone all the way into the ground beneath you. And breathe out slowly from the ground beneath you all the way up to the sky above. As you inhale, feel your chest rise. As you exhale, let your shoulders fall. Breathe in. And slowly breathe out. This time as you inhale through your nose, silently tell yourself, I am stable. And as you exhale through your nose, I am safe. Inhale, I am stable. Exhale, I am safe. Inhale, I have everything I need within me to have a great yoga class. Exhale, I will honor my own boundaries. Inhale, I have everything I need within me to have a great yoga class. Exhale, I will honor my own boundaries. Breathe in all the way down to your tailbone, the base of the spine, the root chakra. And slowly breathe out, letting this sense of stability and safety and ease flood your whole body. As you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes, sit up nice and tall. We're just going to begin by moving our neck spine. Normally in yoga, I would say have your palms facing the ceiling, but for this, if you'd like, you can have your palms facing down. This is another symbolic gesture of being grounded, right? Just tethering yourself to the here and now. As you inhale, stretch up out of the crown of your head. And exhale, start to tilt your right ear towards your right shoulder, stretching the left side neck. It's worth noting that I'm not mirroring you, so it might look like I am moving my head to the left, when in fact I am moving my head to the right. Throughout class, you are welcome to follow my words or my body movements. Just know that in general, we will do the right side of postures first, unless I forget, which does sometimes happen. As you're ready, slowly roll your head down, chin to chest, and this time roll your left ear towards left shoulder, stretching the right side neck. Notice if you start to lean to one side. Try to root down through both sit bones the way that a tree roots down into the earth, so there's a stability in your trunk. It's just the neck that's moving, the rest of the body stays still. Good, slowly roll your head back down, chin to chest. This time roll back up, look straight ahead, and start to lift your nose and your chin up towards the ceiling. This is a compression to the neck and an extension through the throat. Sometimes when we open through the front of the body, we stimulate the central nervous system. So if you ever look up or drop your head all the way back and you start to feel a little like lightheaded or nauseous, that's just a central nervous system response to opening the front of your body. You can still do the posture, just make sure your eyes are open and you're breathing normal. Relax your head back. Feel a stretch through the throat. Good, and slowly roll back up, look straight ahead, inhale, stretch up. Exhale, drop your head, chin to chest. So whereas back bends can be stimulating, forward folds are calming and cooling. In this class, we will be doing more forward folds than back bends for this reason. Again, just feeling your body safe, at ease, rooted into the floor. Sit up nice and tall, drop your chin to your chest, relax your jaw. Good, slowly roll back up, look straight ahead. We're gonna twist the neck. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, look over right shoulder and twist. It's just the neck that's moving. Try to keep your shoulders and hips square with the front of your mat. So it's just the neck spine that's moving. Throughout class, we will get the whole spine involved, but for now, just the neck. You want to feel stability in the lower body, sit bones rooting down, neck slowly moving. Good, slowly unwind, look back, straight ahead. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, look over left shoulder and twist. You might find that this side feels a little or a lot different. It does for me. We're not symmetrical. We are not butterflies. We're perfectly imperfect. So one side of a posture might feel a little or a lot different, and that's okay. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, look over left shoulder and twist. Good. Slowly, carefully unwind, look straight ahead. Take your right hand, place it just outside of your thigh, and take a moment here, depending on your body proportions, your hand might not fully touch the floor. I have short arms and long torso, so I'm gonna tint my fingers on the floor. If you have long arms and a short torso, you might find that your hand comes all the way down. Either way, root your hand into the floor, like this is now another root of a tree branch, right? So the fingers or the palm is rooting down into the floor. So now your sit bones and your right arm are creating stability. On your next inhale breath, reach your left arm long overhead. Relax your shoulders. Lift your chin and chest. Maybe draw your left thumb back a bit to the wall behind you. Try to keep your chest nice and open. Again, feeling your right hand and your sit bones firmly rooted into the floor as we start to get some motion in the upper body. As you're ready, start to circle forward, place your left hand on the floor, swipe it across the floor. Now place your left hand on your left side and really root down there. Feel this stability of your hand, your fingers on the floor. And on your next inhale, reach your right arm long overhead. Drop your shoulders, lengthen through your chin, your chest. You want a gentle stretch to the right side body, gentle compression to the left side body. But notice if you start to lean to one side, root down through both sit bones. Good, as you're ready, take your right hand to the floor, sweep your right arm forward, just getting some motion in the body. Left hand forward, push your hands into the floor, and then slowly walk your hands back in. This time, bring your hands behind you. And again, feel that stability in your fingertips or in your palms, like roots in a tree. Press down through the fingertips and start to lift your chin. Lift your chest. You can stick your butt out a little bit, squeeze your shoulders together. So now you're opening through the whole front of the body, compression to the back of the body. Again, if you feel your heart rate pick up a little bit, or a little bit of like nausea or lightheadedness, that's just the central nervous system turn on a bit as you expose the front of the body. We're learning to breathe through this. Feel your hips on the ground, fingertips on the ground, rooting you into the ground, rooting you into your yoga practice. Good, as you're ready, slowly uncurl, look straight ahead, sweep your arms forward, hands to floor, push your palms into the floor, and drop your head down. This time, tuck your tailbone under a little bit, so think about bringing your hips closer to your ribs. Relax your head, shoulders away from the ears, rounding your spine, compressing the front of the body. Can you relax your head a little bit more? Spread your shoulders wide a little bit more. Good. Slowly walk your hands back in, unwind, look straight ahead. Inhale, reach your right arm up, stretch up. Exhale, place your right hand close behind you. Feel that hand rooted into the floor. Inhale, reach your left arm up, stretch up. Exhale, place left hand on right knee, feeling some stability there as well. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, look over right shoulder and twist. Notice if you're leaning to the right, evenly distribute your body weight so it's your spine moving rather than your hips. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, twist. Good. Slowly, carefully unwind. Take your time. Let's do the other side. Inhale, reach your left arm up, getting some motion in the left side body. Exhale, place left hand close behind you like a second spine. Feel your fingertips actively, firmly rooted into the floor. Inhale, reach your right arm up, stretch up. Exhale, place right hand on left knee, and you can really push there to feel that grounding. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, look over your left shoulder, twist. So again, root down through the right sit bone as well as the left sit bone. Press your right hand into left knee. Press your fingertips into the floor behind you. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, pull your abdomen in, look over your left shoulder and twist. Good. Slowly, carefully unwind. Take your time. There's no rush. From here, you're going to make your way into a tabletop position. You want your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. If you have tight knees, you're welcome to roll up your mat or put a small blanket underneath your knees, under your ankles, anything like that, if it bothers the knee joints to be standing on them. Okay, press your shins into the floor. Feel the shins, the feet, the knees rooting into the floor, palms rooting into the floor, right? Really feel yourself grounded here. And we're gonna do some cat-cows. So take an inhale through your nose. And on your exhale breath, pull your abdomen in and start to round your spine up towards the ceiling like an angry cat. You can drop your head down, chin a little to chest, press your hips forward, hips to ribs, spread your shoulders wide, shoulders away from the ears. This is cat pose. On your next inhale, drop your abdomen in, stick your butt up, look up towards the ceiling, squeeze the shoulders together for cow pose. So this is an extension to the front of the body and compression to the spine. Cat pose, meow, round your spine like an angry cat, spread your shoulders wide, shoulders away from the ears, drop your head, top of the head comes towards the floor, press down through your feet, ankles, shins, and knees. Cow pose, moo, drop your belly down, lift your tailbone up towards the ceiling, look up towards the ceiling, squeeze the shoulders together, open through the chest, drop your shoulders down. One more, cat pose, round the spine, compress the front of the body, spread the shoulders wide, tuck the tailbone under. Cow pose, lift the tailbone up, squeeze the shoulders together, extend the front of the body, compress the spine. Good. Come back into a neutral tabletop position, back flat. Tuck your toes under, and as you're ready, you're going to lift your hips up towards the ceiling for down dog. See if you can press your heels down. Feel your hands rooting into the floor, feet rooting into the floor. If you have tight hamstrings, knees can bend a bit. You can also take a wider stance here that helps you get your heels closer to the floor. And we're just going to hold here for a breath. So even though the hips are lifting up, feel your body grounding into the floor. Knuckles pressing down, heels pressing down. Inhale. Exhale. Look forward, bend your knees again, and come back into your tabletop position. Let's do a few more cat-cows. We're going to articulate the spine. Cat pose, meow, spread the shoulders wide, drop the head down, pull your abdomen in, round your spine. Cow pose, moo, drop your belly down like cow's udders, squeeze shoulders together like you have a number 2 pencil in between your shoulder blades, lift your tailbone up towards the ceiling, look up. Cat pose, so we're articulating the spine, getting some motion in the back here. Cow pose, back bend. Let's do one more set, rounding the spine, pulling the belly in, drop the head. And then bend the spine, let the stomach relax, look up. Good, come back to another neutral position. If that first down dog, you were like, nope, this isn't working for me. Second time, I want you to take a child's pose, sink your hips down and reach your arms forward. Otherwise, we'll do another down dog. So tuck your toes under and then start to lift your hips up towards the ceiling. You can pedal out your legs, bend one leg, straighten the other, and then try to get heels to floor.
hips to ceiling. Spread your fingers wide, root down through all 28 knuckles. Rotate the shoulders out, hug the elbows in, relax your head, look for your thighs behind you. Again, knees can be a little bit bent if you have tight hamstrings. Take an inhale, exhale, inhale, look forward. Exhale, bend your knees back to floor, untuck your toes, and then come back and sit down on your heels. Good, you can roll out your shoulders, your head. Okay, good for you. That's about the most active this class will get. Just a little bit of a warm up there to generate heat in the body. Next, we're going to do a toe stretch, which will also work into our root chakra. So you're gonna come back into tabletop position, your favorite, I know, and then you're gonna tuck your toes under, your favorite, I know. Bring your feet together, open your knees apart, and you're gonna slowly start to sit back so that your heels and tailbone touch one day. So from the front, it'll look like this. Can flip out your toes a little bit so all 10 toes get a stretch. If you can't sit back on your heels, that's really normal. You're welcome to come forward and hold here. You just want to have the toes tucked under for a toe stretch. And if your feet kind of burn in this posture, that's also really normal. Our toes are often like quite tight, right? Whether it's from the shoes we wear or other activities we do. This is a stretch that if you do for like 1 minute a day, it might not be super pleasant at first, but it starts to work into the toes. And again, for the sake of grounding, right? Really feel like your tailbone sinking down, feet in the floor, knees in the floor, standing up nice and tall. You can bring your hands together at heart center. So this might be a little uncomfortable. Parts of yoga can be a little bit discomfortable, and that's okay, but we're never going to a point of like sharp shooting pain. Again, you can picture this red lotus visualization in your mind, at the seat of your spine, at your tailbone, generating some energy there. Take an inhale through your nose. Exhale through your nose. I'm right there with you. Inhale through your nose all the way down to the base of your spine. Exhale through your nose, relax your jaw and shoulders. One more, breathe in. Empty out. And this is the fun part. Come back onto your feet and we're gonna tap out the feet, which if you live in an apartment like I do, I'm sure your downstairs neighbors love, right? Tap out your feet. Good, okay. We're all gonna take a wide-legged child's pose. Bring your feet together, open your knees wide, and start to sink your hips down. Stretch your arms forward, bring forehead to floor. Your child's pose might not look like my child's pose. My child's pose might not look like your child's pose. That's okay. If you have tight toes, ankles, or knees, you can roll up your mat, or again, place a little bit of a buffer with a thin blanket under your knees, under your toes. If there's a big gap between your hips and your heels, that's super normal. You can just kind of let your hips sink down with gravity, or again, you can put a blanket in between your hips and your heels so that there's not too much pressure there. And if folding all the way forward is a bit uncomfortable, you can also play around with placing a pillow or blanket under your chest so that your arms don't come down as much. So throughout class, I'll try to give options with pillows and blankets. You don't need any fancy yoga props, right? But just like household items like pillows or blankets can help us get into postures in a way that we feel supported, where we're not like distracted by our own discomfort. We're gonna hold here for 3 minutes. If you see me looking at my phone, it's because I'm timing the posture. And this is our first long held posture. We're gonna do a few of these throughout class. So this is a really wonderful grounding yoga posture. And it's one I like to do if I don't have like time for a full yoga class. You can always take like 3 minutes in your child's pose here, your wide-legged child's pose. And it's a really wonderful way, again, to get out of your head and back into your body, right? Especially if you start to feel your body on the floor, and you just let the floor hold you up. So it's passive. You're not contorting or forcing your body to stretch. You're just letting gravity do the work. If your version of child's pose right now does not feel comfortable, you're welcome to sit up and again, maybe like roll up a blanket under your knees or under your chest or whatever feels right. Then you just make your way back into your wide-legged child's pose, knees open wide. It's a great hip opener, a really nice way to stretch your back. If having the arms forward, arms with the ears, does not feel good for you, you can also try bringing your arms down by your side. So there's always lots of different modifications and postures. If you've ever been in a yoga class where you feel like you couldn't do anything, that is not your fault. That is like a reflection on the teacher or the class. For sure, there's been times where I've been like injured or just working with a range of motion in my body where I can't do all the postures in a class. That's okay. But if you ever feel like you're not being given alternatives, you're not sure what to do, feel free to message me after class. I promise there's a way for us to work together where you can get a stretch that works for your body. So again, there's points where yoga might be a little uncomfortable, and that's okay, but we're always honoring our boundaries, never going to a point of pain, a point where we could cause harm to ourselves or others. In fact, the first rule in yoga is called ahimsa, and it means do no harm. So that is always our number one priority. About 30 seconds left. Take a slow inhale through your nose. Slow exhale through your nose. Place your hands on the floor, slowly walk yourself back up, take your time. You can bring your knees and feet together here. So now we're stretching through the tops of the feet, ankles, shins, and knees. And you're just gonna have your hands on your thighs and sit up tall here. So we're starting to bring, in child's pose, we had the hips a little higher than the head, so fresh blood goes towards the head. Now that blood going back down to the heart. So we're just taking a moment here as blood flow starts to reverse back. Okay. We are going to do one and a half standing postures, and I will also provide alternatives to them. So as you're ready, you're gonna make your way up to standing. If you have low blood pressure, please go slow as you stand up. I'm right there with you. That's why we did our little sitting first before we stood up. Okay. And one of my favorite things about yoga is that it makes everyday motions intentional, and so we have a word for them. So you're gonna stand with your feet about hip width distance, arms down by your side. If I were to, see you in the street and you were standing like this, and I was like, what are you doing? You'd probably say like, I don't know, I'm standing waiting for the light to turn, right? But in yoga, this is actually a posture, and it's called mountain pose, which I just love the idea of a mountain, right? So we're grounding our feet into the floor, and this is a grounding, earthing posture. Think of yourself like a mountain here, standing nice and tall, evenly distribute your body weight on your feet. Lift your chest, relax your shoulders. So yoga can help bring a little bit of magic to our life. It's not magic, but it's magical, right? And that it brings intention to everyday movements. So lying on our back, we call that Savasana. Standing up tall, we call it mountain pose. From here, we're gonna do a calming forward fold. And before I do that, I will also share this forward fold does not always work for folks, especially with people with a history of slip discs. So I will share the forward fold. And if that does not speak to you, I will give you an alternative that is seated, no problem. For the forward fold, it's called dangling pose. It's not a very creative name. You're gonna dangle forward, open your feet a little bit more. And now really feel your feet into the floor, standing tall like a mountain. Just grounding down as you lift up. I'm going to show you from the side. From here, start to bend your knees and fold forward. Knees can stay bent, especially if you have tight hamstrings. Eventually, you're going to drop all the way down, relax your head. You can put your hands on the floor, or you can bend your arms, catch opposite elbow and opposite hand, maybe sway right and left. And then as you're ready, if you'd like a deeper hamstring stretch, you can lift your hips up a little bit. You don't necessarily have to straighten your legs, right? But you can lift your hips up a little bit and drop your head down. Now, right away, if you're like, this does not feel good for my back, no problem. You are not alone. You're going to put your hands on the floor, bend your knees, and carefully make your way into a seated position. So this is an alternative forward fold to dangling. One is not better than the other, they're just different. So even if you like dangling pose, but you just want to do something different, join me on your glutes. From here, you're going to put your hands on the floor and fold forward. You can stick your butt out a little bit, knees can bend a little bit. If you have a history of slip discs, rounding your back might not feel great. You can put your hands on the floor and keep a nice straight spine. If you'd like, you can fold forward and really relax your head. But again, if this starts to like tug or pull at your back in a not pleasant way, you can put your hands on the floor and stay lifted. You are welcome to put pillows or blankets in between your thighs and your abdomen for extra support. And in fact, if it's a little too much on the hamstrings, you can also place a little bit of a blanket underneath your knees so that the knees bend a little bit extra. And that way you get the stretch without overindulging the backs of the legs. So again, we can do this seated forward fold or dangling pose. And whichever one you are in, we're going to hold for 2 more minutes. So when we fold forward, it's a really calming, cooling to the nervous system, right? And if you are in a standing position here in dangling pose, you're also letting gravity really do the work, right? So you're not like forcing your spine to come down. You'll just find that over time the back opens up. You'll feel a little bit more space between every vertebrae. I've told this story before, but one time I was doing yoga in the park with Jenny, and she was leading class, and she did this posture, and I'm looking behind me, and this squirrel is just like making direct eye contact with me. And I was like terrified that the squirrel was gonna like run and jump and like bite me in the butt, but it didn't. But me and this squirrel had this like intense staring contest where I was like, gosh, if I blink, it's gonna it's gonna attack me. So now I think of squirrels whenever I do this posture. Notice where you might be holding on to tension in your body. See if you can let it go through the exhale breath. We've got about 30 seconds left. If you would like a deeper hamstring stretch, you can straighten your legs a little bit more. If you're in dangling pose, you can bring a little bit more weight into the balls of your feet. Take a slow inhale through your nose. Slow exhale through your nose. Next, we're going to do what's called Garland Pose, sometimes referred to as a yogi squat. I'm going to explain how to get into it from dangling pose. If you were seated on the floor, don't worry, I will come for you next and tell you how to get into it as well. For Garland or squatting, you're going to put your hands on the floor in front of you. Depending on your body proportions, you will want 1 to 3 feet between your feet. So minimum 1 ruler, maximum 3 rulers between your heels. Bring your heels in and your toes out so your feet make a V shape. And as you're ready, you're going to start to bend your knees and sink your hips down. So eventually your heels will come to the floor. At first, it might look like this, hands on the floor and heels lifted off the floor. And if you're super tight, you can also play around with doing like one leg at once, right? So maybe one heel on the floor at a time. Okay, so this is Garland Squat. If you're seated on your butt here in your forward fold, you're just gonna put your hands on the floor, bend your legs. Same thing, push your hands into the floor, toes in, heels out, and slowly let your heels drop to the floor. If your heels are way off the floor, that is really normal. You might try taking a slightly wider or smaller step. You can also, once again, place a blanket or pillows underneath your heels
so that your heels are supported, right? Not quite off the floor. For those of you who have the heels on the floor, or you can make contact between your rolled up blanket and your heels, you can put your hands together at heart center and slowly start to press the knees out. This is a wonderful hip opener. This is a very common position in a lot of areas of the world. This is how a lot of the people like eat. You might, depending on where you've traveled in the world, you might have seen people like sitting by the side of the road, gambling in this position. This is how people use the bathroom in a lot of the world. But in the United States, most of us cannot do this position with our body. It's good for digestion. It's a great hip and knee opener. And again, it's something you don't have to dedicate like an hour of your life every day to yoga to attain this. I have a friend who doesn't really have time to practice yoga often, but he'll like sit while he's watching TV at the end of the day. He'll sit in this posture for like a minute at a time. Slowly over time, the body opens up. There's so many, yoga postures that work really well in a sequence as part of, a 60-minute or 90-minute yoga routine. But there's also small postures like Child's Pose or Garland Pose, what we're doing here, that really open up the body. And you can just do them on their own for a minute or 3 minutes every day, and you'll start to see shifts in the body. We're going to hold here for 1 more minute. Think about breathing into your root chakra, the tailbone, base of the spine, breathing in through the nose, down to the root of the body, breathing out through the nose, letting that air come back out. Okay, as you're ready, put your hands on the floor, take your time. You can lift your hips up, maybe bring your feet back together, bend your legs again. We're gonna make our way onto our back for our first Savasana corpse pose. So you're gonna lie with your head to one side of your mat or mat area. Again, it can just be a carpeted area. Your feet to the other side. You can let your arms and legs fall open. Normally in Savasana, we would say palms face the ceiling, like you're open to receiving. But if you really want to focus on your like rooting and grounding today, palms face down, palms face the floor. Feel yourself firmly anchored, tethered into the floor, and let the floor hold you up. Now right away, flying on your back with your legs straight does not feel good to your lower spine. That is quite normal. A couple options. You can bend your legs so your feet are on the floor and your knees rest together. You can also roll up your mat or a small blanket under your lower back, and that will also support the lumbar spine a little bit better. Once you've found your puddle pose or corpse pose position, you're just going to hold still and breathe. So in most styles of yoga, this is called Shavasana or corpse pose or dead body pose, which is a little bit morbid, but like kind of obvious why we call it that, right? You're lying still like a corpse. And I would say in pretty much every style of yoga, we would all agree that this is the most important posture that we do. This is the one that makes all the other postures make sense. And as I alluded to earlier with our standing mountain pose, what makes Savasana, like all other yoga postures, different from simply lying on your back or squatting is the intention that we have with it. So if I were to come across you and you're lying on your back in the middle of the day and I was like, what are you doing? And you'd be like, I don't know, I'm taking a nap, right? That's a little bit different from what we're doing here. We're intentionally relaxing into the floor, and we're really giving the ground beneath us permission to hold us up. Sometimes in life, we become like so self-reliant, we don't even want to let the floor hold us up. This is a symbolic gesture that you are grounded, you are safe, you are stable, and you are allowing something, even if it's just the floor beneath you, to support you. So allow yourself to feel supported and at ease in the world. Breathing in and breathing out. Notice what parts of your body are touching the ground.
what parts of your body aren't touching the ground. Can you relax just a little deeper? Can you breathe a little slower? Next, we're going to do a bridge pose. Bring your hands down by your side if they're not already, palms facing the floor. Bend your legs if they're not already, feet on the floor, knees pointing towards the ceiling. Start to lift your hips and bring your arms underneath you, so palms face the floor. Actively press your feet into the floor. Press your palms, arms, and shoulders in the floor. Squeeze your glutes and start to lift your hips up towards the ceiling. You might play around with bringing your feet a little bit further to the back of your mat, or your heels a little bit closer to your toes, closer to your fingers, I should say. Heels closer to toes would be crazy. Bring your heels either closer to your fingers or further away from your fingers, depending on what feels good for your knees. Squeeze your glutes, lift your hips, really ground down through the feet, the hands, the shoulders, and slowly with control, lower your hips back down, rooting the hips, the root chakra, back into the floor. Let's do that 2 more times. Engage your gluteal muscles, press your feet, hands, and shoulders down, and lift your hips up. So this is a gentle back bend. Again, a nice little opener to the front of the body that we can do in a seated, grounded position. Good. Slowly lower your hips back down, relax your glutes. Take a moment here, take a breath. And last time, engage your gluteal muscles, press your feet, shoulders, and hands down, lift your hips up, look down the center line of your body. So even though part of our body is lifting, the rest of our body is supporting us, right? Good, and slowly lower back down. Bring your legs back down, arms out, back into your Savasana. So I like that posture because it reminds us, sometimes when we're trying something new or when we're blossoming, blooming, growing out, part of us leaves the floor, right? Like our hips left the floor, but the other parts of our body were there to support it. And so too, sometimes when maybe, we're transitioning professionally or personally, can feel like we're a bit untethered. And it's important to remember that other parts of your life or other people in your life are still there to support you. So even when one thing is kind of untethered or moving away, everything else is still there as a foundation, right? You just have to look for it sometimes. Take an inhale through your nose. And an exhale through your nose. Just coming back into your body, back into the ground. Next, we're going to do what's called Supine Bound angle. Bend your legs again, if they're not already. Knees, feet together. And as you're ready, you're just going to start to open your knees out and bring your feet in. So soles of the feet face each other, knees come out. To get more of a hip opener, you can bring your heels closer to your groin, your root chakra. If that is too much, bring your feet closer to the back of your mat. You're always welcome to roll up blankets or pillows and place them under your knees or thighs for support. You can wiggle out your glutes or your shoulders a little bit. You can also place a blanket under your lower back if you find your back is bending a little bit, or even under your head, just if that feels good. So again, don't be afraid to play around with using pillows, using blankets to support you. Then we're just going to hold still and breathe for 3 minutes. This is a wonderful hip opener. And it's a nice way for us to still stay rooted into the floor as we open the hips. So I love doing this posture. There's versions of this where you're seated, but I really like the one on the back because it's a bit more passive, right? We just let gravity do the work with the knees slowly falling to the floor, hips slowly opening up. Sometimes I think, In yoga and in other physical endeavors, we think that we have to like work really hard and push really hard to, to get the maximum benefits. But I really do believe that sometimes less is more. And you want to let the postures work for you rather than the other way around, right? So you're never forcing your knees or your hips to open here. You just slowly, with the help of gravity, feeling the hips open and the knees soften down to the floor. I will now tell one of my favorite yoga jokes, which is that some people call this posture the most spiritual of postures because it's the meeting of two souls. The soles of your feet are touching. I love that. The meeting of two souls. So the soles of your feet are touching, the knees and hips are opening. Many of us store tension and emotion in the hips. So as you open this part of your body, if you happen to feel a sudden urge to like cry or giggle, or you feel the temperature in your body shift quickly, any other sort of involuntary nervous system response, know that that's really normal. That's just like body opening up and sometimes nervous system response. That's all it is. When you start to feel the nervous system turn on, if you feel a little bit untethered, just feel your shoulders on the floor, head on the floor, hips and feet on the floor. Just paying attention to what parts of you are being supported. And again, just allow yourself to feel supported through the floor beneath you, the air around you, the sky above you, and the breath within you. Take a slow inhale through your nose. An even slower exhale through the nose. To come out of this posture, I like to place my hands on my outer thighs, knees for support. And with the help of your hands, you can slowly bring your knees back together, feet on the floor. You can stay here with your feet on the floor and legs bent, or bring your arms and legs back down for Puddle Pose. Sometimes we really experience a posture only after it's over. So again, if you feel a sudden change in like temperature or sensation in your body, or like an emotional urge, right? Whatever that is, that's normal. It's just the body reacting to that. Hip opener. And then we're just returning to this neutral position. As I mentioned earlier, most styles of yoga call what we're doing right now Savasana or corpse pose. But in one style of yoga, yin yoga, this posture is called Puddle Pose, which I think is lovely. So if the idea of acting like a corpse is ever a little bit too morbid for you, I'm right there with you. You can instead think like you're a puddle, right? You can have your arms and legs out a little bit more, just making a shape that feels good with your body, carefree, like a puddle. Breathing in and breathing out. As you're ready, you're going to bring your arms out to the side. Normally, I would say palms face up, but if you'd like to experiment with palms facing down so that you feel anchored and rooted for this specific practice, you're welcome to do that. From here, you're going to bend your legs up if they're not already, feet and knees together, and start to roll over to your right. So left hip stacks on top of right hip, left knee on top of right foot, left foot on top of right foot. Try to keep your left shoulder on the floor. This is the spine twist. You're welcome to have your head on the floor looking towards the ceiling, or for a full spine twist, roll your left ear down towards the floor. So knees are moving to the right, but gaze is shifting to the left. And we're just going to hold here and breathe. So again, part of your body is probably off the floor, right? Like your left hip is certainly off the floor here. Maybe the left shoulder too. You're welcome to place a blanket under your left shoulder. You can place a blanket in between your knees and ankles, under a knee, hip, or ankle, just making yourself feel comfortable. But then, rather than paying attention to what part of you is not touching the ground, really start to dig into where you do feel rooted, right? Whether that's through the hands or the feet or the right side torso. We're just going to reframe this as a grounding, rooting posture. Focus on where you are touching the floor and allow the floor to hold you up. Notice where you might be holding on to tension. Let it go through the exhale breath. Take a slow inhale through your nose. And a slow exhale through your nose, just letting the shoulders fall. Breathe in, let your neck be long. Breathe out, let your knees be heavy. If you're looking over to the left, slowly roll your head back to center. To come out of this posture, I like to place my hands on my knees, thighs for extra support, and slowly roll yourself back over. Left glute down, right glute down. You can roll out if it feels good, and then back into your puddle pose, Savasana. As we return to this neutral state, feel your back stretch out, so stretching from the crown of your head, all the way down to your root, the base of your spine, and all the way down to your toes. Let the body get nice and long. And again, let the floor hold you up. The floor is your friend. Let's bring the arms back down to the side, back out to the sides, I should say. You can have your palms face up as a gesture that you're open to receiving, or your palms facing down as an extra gesture of stability and safety. Bend your legs once again if they're not already. And this time start to roll to the left. So your right hip stacks on top of left hip, right knee on top of left knee, right foot on top of left foot, and eventually right shoulder on the floor. You can look up towards the ceiling or look over your right shoulder. You're welcome to place a blanket in between or under your knees or ankles or under the right shoulder. Again, you might notice that this side feels different from the other side. It does for me. Yoga gives us a really wonderful opportunity to notice incongruencies in our body or, parts of our body that might be a little tight or a little overly flexible or whatever that is. Yoga gives us an opportunity to address those incongruencies. But mostly, yoga gives us an opportunity for self-acceptance and self-realization. The idea that one hip might always be tighter than the other, and that's okay, right? You don't have to have like a perfectly symmetrical body to practice yoga. On that same note, it's a yoga myth that people who practice yoga have their lives together and are happy all the time. As you might know by now, most of us are here because we're a little untethered, right? Or a little tight. And that's why we come to yoga, right? Not just to become a little bit more anchored, but to just accept ourselves exactly as we are. You don't have to pretend to be something that you're not. So I will often give the cue of, if you notice there's tension in your body, let it go through the exhale breath. But the truth is, sometimes even after that exhale, or a few exhales, there's still tension. Maybe a little bit of nerves or anxiety, or maybe just a real physical, ouch, right? Discomfort. And that's okay. We're just learning to sit with that. Sometimes, you know, the deepest wound that we can inflict on ourselves is thinking that it's a bad thing to feel how we feel in a moment, whether that's a tight knee or a broken heart, right? It's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. Yoga makes it a little bit more manageable. It's not magic, right? It's not a magic pill, but it is magical. You're just learning to accept yourself exactly as you are in this moment. Breathing in and emptying out. If you're looking to the right, slowly roll your head back to center, looking up. And if you'd like, place your hands on your knees, thighs, and slowly roll your right hip back down. You can wiggle out your arms, legs, and shoulders, and then make your way into our final Savasana, final puddle pose. If you'd like here, you can really make like roots of a tree with your body. So you can have your arms and legs a little extra wide, just taking up space. If you'd like, you can place a blanket over your body or, you know, a blanket or pillow under your head. You can make this as luxurious as you want. I think sometimes also we think yoga should be like austere, like it would be ridiculous to place a pillow under my head. That's too luxurious. No, you can place a pillow under your head. If you want to like light candles and do incense, go for it. You know, that's like not my thing, but you're welcome to do that, right? Like make it your practice. Gosh, especially in the comfort of your own home, right? I hope it's comfortable for you. And we're just going to hold here in stillness and breathe. In a few minutes, I'll indicate that it's time either for you to continue final Savasana as long as you'd like, or we'll transition to an optional 15-minute journaling session. But I'll give you that cue for now. Just give yourself permission to be here. Enjoy your own company as you breathe through your nose, firmly rooted into the ground beneath you, held by the air around you, loved by the sky above you, tethered by the breath within you. Notice where you might still be holding on to tension in your body. This is an invitation to let it go through the exhale breath. Notice any worries or cares, maybe a burden that is simply not yours to carry. Take an inhale through your nose. This is an invitation to let go through the exhale breath. When we breathe with intention, it becomes more than just an automatic function of being alive. Every inhale becomes an opportunity, a fresh start, a chance to start over new. Every exhale, an opportunity to let go of that which no longer serves you. Breathing in and emptying out. You are welcome to stay in final Savasana as long as you'd like. If you'd like to stay for the journaling session but don't like the writing part, you can also just stay and listen. Otherwise, as you're ready, you can slowly make your way up into a seated position. Please take your time, there's no rush. If you'd like to stay, grab your pen and paper. And again, if you have to stand up to get it, please take your time, especially if you have low blood pressure so that you don't get dizzy. And grab a sip of water if you want. I'm going to plug in my laptop because it would be pretty funny if my laptop died in the middle of this. All right, wonderful. Okay, great. So any movements you want to make with your body or anything you just want to like shake out, feel free to do that. You know, sometimes it's good to move after the movement. So we're just gonna do like a 15-minute optional journaling session here. Journaling, I think, is a really wonderful outlet. The same way that yoga is an outlet for like our physical self, journaling is a really great outlet for our emotional, psychological, spiritual self. And it also fosters creativity, right? So the more you journal or write, the easier it becomes. First journaling prompt, which is what I always like to start with, is something very simple, and it's gratitude. You're going to write down 20 things that you're grateful for. Don't think too much about it, just let it flow. Sometimes when we're having a bad day, or when we tell someone that we're having a bad day, that negativity can be uncomfortable. And so either someone will do this to you or you will do it to yourself, which is you focus on like the positive, right? Like, oh, nothing's wrong. Here's the silver lining. Don't be in pain. Don't be uncomfortable. There's a term for that. It is called spiritual bypassing. You might have realized it doesn't feel very good if you tell somebody you're sad and they say, well, look on the bright side, right? You have a roof over your head. That's probably not what you want to hear in that moment. Sometimes we do that to ourselves as well. Gratitude is a really wonderful option, whether it's journaling or just thinking out loud, where you're not ignoring the bad stuff or pretending that the hard stuff doesn't exist, but you're also giving your mind something to focus on that's very real, right? So you can practice gratitude without ignoring how you feel on the inside. It's a magical thing. It's free. We have it at our disposal at any given time. Anytime, you know, things don't feel like they're going your way, you can just write down 10 or 20 things that you're grateful for. Okay. If gratitude is really speaking to you, you can continue on that path. Otherwise, I will offer the next prompt is pretty open-ended. We are beginning a new month of March,
what would your ideal March look like? Like in your wildest dreams, what does this next month look like for you? Let's take one more minute envisioning your best March. March is an interesting season, I think, or a month for a lot of us because we're kind of transitioning between seasons. Like it's not quite spring, but like the sun is setting later, right? We're getting hints of green things and warm things. So as we start to look to, the springtime ahead, what seeds can you plant this month for the coming season? What seeds can you plant in your life that will help you with your ideal March as well as the season to come? This can be a healthy habit or a goal that you're setting, or maybe something that you're putting down or letting go of. Looking to the month ahead, what will you need to feel stable and grounded? Looking to the month ahead, what will you need to feel stable and grounded? Our yoga class today focused a lot on grounding down and being rooted. And when we think about plants, whether it's, a tree or a flower or a succulent, of course, we have to have roots. That's what creates the stability. But as you know, plants don't just ground down, they also grow up. So as well as planting seeds that'll go into the ground that'll help you feel grounded, stable, safe, supported, how can you grow up? So not just down, not just rooted down, but how can you blossom, right? And really grow out and branch out. So we're rooting down, but of course, right? Trees don't just root down, they grow out. So how are you growing out? How can you blossom and grow up and out as well as down and in? And last but not least, as you look to the month ahead, growing down and in as well as up and out, if there's a word, a phrase, or a sentence that you would like to write to yourself, like I am stable or I am curious or whatever that is, you're welcome to write it down now. And if it is meaningful for you, you can actually put it in your wallet or your pocket or by your bedstand, if that is something that speaks to you. Otherwise, you can just carry it in your heart. Again, a word, a phrase, a sentence, a mantra that you can recall whenever you feel a little untethered or unsure of the direction you're moving in. All right, well, for the sake of time, it is 7:16, so I will officially close our journaling and yoga session. But if this spoke to you, you can keep journaling, keep yogaing, you can incorporate either of those things into your day-to-day routine. Thank you all for joining me. It is lovely to be here with each of you, and I hope to see you very soon.
Thanks, Holly.